Hey there, everybody. Welcome to week 6. We're moving right along here. First part of the class is done. We've gotten civilizations. We took a quiz on that. Good job. I looked it over. Yes, it looks like I totally messed up the fill in the blanks. I apologize about that. I don't know, but I did. I'll figure it out. That's my bad. I did go back and fix them all. I don't know. Yeah, I'll figure it out. The good news is, when it was right, it popped up as correct. It just didn't give you any points. Whatever. I'll figure it out. Lamaku. The big thing was on the quiz one was the 5 W's. And again, I just put up on Lamaku there in a submodule, 5 W responses, kind of what I'm looking for. And those responses are, I've taken them from responses from this class with their fellow students. And just kind of so look at those. Those are ones that I felt really exemplified what I'm looking for in those. So look those over. If you didn't, and that's kind of what I'm going to be looking for going forward. Just kind of in your why. If you just kind of explain what this term is and give like this is it. You'll get 3, 4 out of 5. But that 5 out of 5, I'm really looking for how can we take this term and expand upon it? So like Hammurabi, if you just said it's the law codes of Mesopotamia and Babylon and the Babylonian kingdom, great. Again, using these key terms, make sure you use those in your 5 W's going forward. I'm going to ask for those in bold. Just so. But then the next step of that is they reflect part of Mesopotamian society. I would learn about that from these codes, which we talked about in the reading and in the lectures there. 2, Akhenaten, right? He's a pharaoh, started monotheism. Great, that's great. And then the big thing is like the legacy of that. Right? And one, it shows the power of the pharaoh within Egyptian history, but also that all these changes were rejected in the end. He died. His son Tutankhamun was shoved in a tomb, and all of that. 4 Varnas. Again, if you listed the 4 Varnas, great. But also talk about how that relates to social stratification. This is the Vedic world, how they did it. But we've seen social stratification in each civilization. Lapita, again, people did a good job of spread of Polynesia, Oceania by these groups. The ideas of these trade networks that the pottery shows they were connected over a long period of time, but also that they spread and diffused their culture, the material culture of plants. Give a couple lists of those. We have that, we have those canoe plants, and animals, and then, and stories as well, Maui stories that we see throughout Polynesia. And the last one, Mandate of Heaven, again, sort of the imperial system that emerges in the Zhao dynasty of China. If you said that, great. If you explained about how the later emperors can claim that title and the sort of imperial legacy, also good. And then what is this Zhao Shang transition? Just kind of put a little bit of historical message in there. So that's 5 W's, quiz 1. All the quizzes are going to look similar to that. So now you know. If you have any questions, please send me an email. Okay. So this week, we're transitioning. Now we've gotten the civilizations out of the way. For the next few weeks, we're going to look at these concepts of empires, which are more like centralized, much more sort of centralized, stronger, politically, culturally diverse worlds. So these ideas of empires. And we're going to start, we started with sort of India here because it has good empires we can look at, but also has these other part of this section of the semester is epics, how literature and stories shape our past and our present as well. Again, I kind of broke up this section in 3 sort of main headings: South Asian empires, South Asian epics, and South Asian religions. Those all correlate to your discussion post, so pick one of those, focus on that a little bit more, and just pick one of those and discuss in more detail. So the empires, the Maurya with the Ashoka being the important one there with its edicts, the Kushans and the connectivity, and the Gupta and this sort of phase of Sanskrit literature. Be familiar with all of those. Epics, the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. Again, I'll switch back to epics in a little bit when we talk the epic essay. You can discuss those. Or religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Jainism, this idea of orthodox, those that sort of the Hinduism sort of maintained Vedic ideals. The key terms here being dharma, this idea of duty; karma, the idea of action; samsara, the world that we live in that is constantly replicating; and then moksha as well, the liberation of that, which again in the Vedic world or the Hinduism adheres very much to the Vedic ideals of that. In fact, Vedas play a big role in Hindu ceremonies, going in the present, whereas Buddhism and Jainism reject that, these heterodox systems, and have those terms but use them very differently, which the lecture talks about. So for the discussion post, pick one of those. There's a lot of information this week, but I know a lot about South Asia, so I'll share it with you. But the big thing here is epics, right? And now your assignment for this next section of this semester is to pick an epic and read it and talk about it. So look over the guidelines there, talk about why epics are important. For the next few weeks, we're going to be looking at fundamental elements of stories. In this week, we'll look at the Mahabharata and the Ramayana, which are very fundamental to India, South Asia, and beyond. These stories have spread as well. I also gave, for a little bit more Hawaii context, because these epics are present here. So I gave a little video about Pele, right? I mean, the epic of that would be Hilave. No, sorry. I'm blanking on it. And Kumulipo, it'll come back to me. Hiaka, Kupoleo Pele, right? So that's the Pele epic of her story, and then Kumulipo, obviously, and I gave a little video on both of those, so you can check those out. But then we'll look at how these fundamental elements of literature shape culture, perpetuate ideas, contain core concepts that people can emulate, plots that people can relate to, characters that they can look at. We have epics today. Contemporarily, it's Star Wars. A lot of people look at that, or Star Trek, depending on which side of the coin you're on there. These epic stories that give us life lessons. Harry Potter would be sort of a newer one. These stories that are embedded with meaning that people can draw from. In India, the two main ones are the Mahabharata and the Ramayana. I talked about them. I can't go into length here, but please look at them. And some of the concepts there that are prevalent, this idea of dharma, right? Your duties, what you should do as a ruler or a priest or a farmer or a merchant or a shudra, a servant, right? This idea of dharma, your duties, and karma, the way you act, and how those relate, which is what the Bhagavad Gita is all about, which is the reading for this week. I also give a couple of videos for these to kind of visualize these two epics, because they are stories, but they were meant to be told. They were originally oral, and then you could enact it out. So people were looking at these. It's the first movies that people really got engaged with, but it's the underlying ideas that are there, and the lectures talk about those. So it's kind of what I want you to do within your epic essay. So be thinking about that in your discussion post this week. Please put in your what epic you're going to pick. I'll look at those, give you some feedback. I have a big list of PDFs that I can send people if I have the PDF of your epic. If not, I'll try to find it for you. I think that's it. Great. Have a good rest of your week.